Hey guys, tonight we set sail into the wild, creaking world of 17th century pirate life. Picture this. The waves slap against the hull like an endless drumbeat, a salty breeze whips past your face, and the moon glows overhead like a silver coin no one dares steal. The ship rocks gently or not so gently beneath your feet. You're not just visiting this world, you're living in it. And spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this without losing a tooth, your pride, or your dinner. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is how quiet the ocean can be when it wants to. Not peaceful quiet, more like the kind that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. It's just before midnight, and you're being rowed toward a looming black shape in the water, your new home. A pirate ship called the Grinning Widow. Not exactly comforting. The rowboat thuds against the hull. You crane your neck to look up, and it's like staring at a floating fortress. Ropes dangle over the side like the ship's long, tangled hair. A rope ladder creaks as it's lowered. Time to climb. By the time your boots hit the deck, your palms are rope burned and your legs feel like jelly. But you've made it. Sort of. The deck smells of old fish tar and something that may once have been food. The moonlight reveals a few figures watching you from the shadows. Not moving, just watching. A voice booms from the quarterdeck. Name. You give one? Maybe yours. Maybe one you made up on the spot. Doesn't matter. What matters is that the pirate captain nods and says, "You'll earn your keep." Or you won't. Standard pirate welcome. You're still catching your breath when a cannon goes off somewhere below deck. No warning, no reason. Just a test shot, apparently. The echo rolls over the sea like thunder. Someone chuckles. You jump. The cannons are always loaded, you learn, not because of danger, just habit. Another pirate shoves a mop into your hands and gestures vaguely. Make yourself useful. You scrub a patch of deck that looks clean enough already. It's a test. Or a joke. You can't tell. Then suddenly a hand yanks the mop from you. It's the bosun, a wiry woman with 3 gold teeth and one eye that never blinks. New blood, huh? Let's hope you're not shark bait by next week. She grins like the ship's namesake. There's no official welcome party, no tour. Just the sense that you've stepped into a world that never sleeps, where every creak might mean something's about to break, explode, or betray you. You try not to trip over a loose cannonball rolling lazily across the deck. One of the older crew mutters, "Lucky it's not your head." Welcome aboard. You learn quickly that pirates sleep in shifts. Nobody truly rests. Someone is always awake, sharpening blades or staring out to sea like they expect it to blink first. You aren't given a proper place to sleep, just told to find a dry spot not already claimed by rats, ropes, or someone meaner than you. You choose a coil of rope near the forecastle. It smells like seawater and regret. As the night drags on, you overhear snippets of conversation. Plans to raid a Spanish merchant ship. A heated debate about whether octopuses are smarter than dogs. A long-running argument about whether Captain Avery faked his death and is sipping rum on some island none of you will ever see. Mainstream historians agree the golden age of piracy peaked around the late 17th to early 18th century. But dates feel meaningless out here. The only calendar is the moon and the rot of wood. One sailor swears he saw sea lights, a glowing green shimmer beneath the water that's supposedly a sign of either treasure or doom. Historians still argue whether such lights were just bioluminescent plankton or the fever dreams of dehydrated pirates, he says, nodding sagely, as if that clears it all up. You lean back the ship, rocking like a cradle. It's oddly soothing until a rat scurries over your boot. You don't scream, you're a pirate now. The first time you lock eyes with the captain, you feel it in your stomach like the deck shifted without warning. He's not the loudest man aboard nor the tallest. But his silence has weight, and when he finally speaks, the entire crew leans in just slightly, as if gravity itself bends toward him. He stands at the wheel now, silhouetted by the lantern that swings just behind him, casting his long coat in flickers of orange. His name's Captain Merrick Cole. The men call him Black-Eyed Merrick, though you're pretty sure both his eyes are normal, if anything about him is normal. You're still here, he says, eyeing you from under his wide-brimmed hat. Good. I hate wasting rum on cowards. You nod awkwardly, not sure what response he's fishing for. Know this, he continues, not looking at you anymore. I don't need loyalty, I need hunger. Then he taps his temple, and a bit of madness too. Somewhere near the bow, someone laughs, probably overheard the exchange. Or maybe they're just drunk. You're learning quickly that those two states often overlap on this ship. Merrick's boots creak as he descends to the main deck. You follow him not by choice, but because he motions you with 2 fingers like you're a stray dog. He walks with a strange limp one, not caused by injury but by habit. Rumour has it he used to be an officer in a Navy fleet before he went rogue. Some say he killed a duke in a duel over a woman. Others whisper he is a duke just pretending. Historians still argue whether pirates like Merrick really came from noble bloodlines or if these tales were just sailors' gossip spun under stars and drink. He stops by the rail and gestures to the dark horizon. Gold's out there, somewhere. But it's not the gold that matters. It's what people will do for it. That's the game. A pause, then he reaches into his coat, pulls out a small golden ring and tosses it into the ocean. You blink. Was that real? He smirks. Course it was. You'll never last out here if you don't learn what's worth more than gold. Then he's gone, vanished back into the ship like smoke. That's your first real lesson. Out here, gold is bait. Power is the hook. The rest of the crew treats the captain with a mix of reverence and fear. No one speaks ill of him, not because it's forbidden, but because you can tell. They don't dare. He's unpredictable. One day he shares his personal stash of tobacco. The next he punches a man for sneezing too loud. At dinner, which is basically dried fish and a hard crust of bread, you hear more stories. One crewmate swears Merrick once stared down a naval brig without firing a shot and the whole crew aboard the other vessel just left. Disappeared. Not a trace. He looked at them like death itself, the sailor whispers, and they ran. You chuckle, but no one else does. Later, Merrick hums to himself near the map table. It's an old, cracked thing covered in wine stains, crude drawings of sea monsters and unmarked islands. He doesn't trust charts made by others, so he redraws them constantly. His maps are like diaries with no words, just directions and regrets. He pins one finger on a stretch of sea labelled Hollow Reach. There's a merchant convoy expected there in 4 days. You're going after it. Not for treasure, he says, but for leverage. Whatever that means. At one point he pulls out a small dagger not to threaten but to carve a symbol into the mast. A tiny bird, wings spread wide. Every ship I've served on, he mutters, this little bird's flown with me. You ask what it means. He smiles half asleep. Freedom. Or maybe revenge. Can't remember. The truth is, you're not sure if he's a genius or absolutely cracked. Probably both. but the crew follows him, and that tells you all you need to know. And now so do you. You're not officially a pirate until you've taken the oath. And tonight's the night. No ceremony, no priest, no witnesses who aren't half drunk and completely sunburnt. Just you, the bosun, a chipped mug of something that smells like paint thinner and the glint of steel under torchlight. You're summoned below deck down into the galley where the lanterns swing and shadows cling to every timber. Half the crew is already packed in shoulders pressed together, breath thick with rum and something else you can't quite name. Maybe mildew, maybe anticipation. The bosun shoves the mug into your hands. Drink it. Don't ask. You drink. You ask anyway. What's in it? Someone laughs. Mostly rum. Little bit of gunpowder. Maybe a beetle. Your throat burns like it's been scraped with hot sand. It takes everything not to cough. You probably fail. Then comes the dagger. It's passed around like a family heirloom no one actually wants to inherit. Ornate handle rust-flecked blade and dried something crusted near the hilt. You're not sure what it is and you don't want to ask again. Cut your palm, the bosun orders. Swear by blood or get off the ship. You hesitate, a crew member snorts. We all did it, even Merrick, though he didn't flinch. Of course he didn't. You slice. Not deep, but enough. Enough for a red bead to well up and glisten in the lantern glow. You press your palm to the mast, leaving a streak that joins dozens of others, some old and faded others, suspiciously fresh. There's no speech, no cheer, just a few grunts of approval and one crewmate who mumbles, "Welcome to the damned." From that moment, something changes, not just in how they treat you, but in how you move. Your shoulders square a bit more. You start walking like someone who belongs here even if your stomach still flips at every creak of wood. The oath isn't just blood, it's shared risk. You're part of a crew now for better or worse. Usually worse. Later that night, one of the older pirates, a wiry man with half an ear and no eyebrows, pulls you aside. You cut light, he says, eyeing your palm. That's smart. Deep cuts attract spirits. You blink. Spirits. Aye, he nods as if this is common knowledge. Sea spirits smell blood. That's why Merrick always prays before battle. Historians still argue whether pirates genuinely believed in maritime spirits, or if it was all psychological theatre superstition used to cope with terror and guilt. But when you're drifting through dark waters with nothing but wood between you and oblivion, every creak feels like something watching. You wrap your hand in a scrap of cloth and try not to think about ghosts, or sharks, or how many people have bled on this ship. That night, the crew holds a welcome wager. You're the main attraction. They bet on whether you'll cry puke or pass out first after chugging the captain's private stash of rum. No pressure. You try. You really do. But halfway through, your knees buckle and your face meets the deck like an old friend. The crew erupts in laughter. Coins change hands. Someone slips you a slice of salt pork as a consolation prize. It's disgusting. You eat it anyway. Before the laughter dies down, someone starts a chant. A drunken off-key shanty about a new recruit who couldn't hold his drink but bled like a proper man. The melody's terrible, the sentiment's weirdly touching. That night, as you lie on your makeshift bedding with a bandaged hand and a queasy stomach, you realise this might be the strangest family you've ever had. But it's yours now. And tomorrow the real work begins. Your first night's sleep is not sleep. It's more like a series of awkward foot-twitching naps, interrupted by curses, crashes, and one unidentifiable thud, followed by a crewmate muttering, "It'll heal." Your bed is a coiled rope next to the forward mast, and it does not heal. Your back already regrets the decision. The first rat shows up just past dawn. You call it a rat, but honestly, it might be something worse. A furry blur with teeth, no fear, and what looks like a tiny scar over one eye. You don't scream, you do yelp, quietly. Breakfast is served at sunrise, if you can call it served. A bucket is passed around containing hardtack, also known as ship biscuits. Though they're more closely related to concrete than any modern food, you bang one against the deck. It sounds like knocking on a coffin lid. A pirate beside you bites in, without hesitation. You watch in horror as he chews, then spits out a bug. He doesn't seem bothered. You break your piece in half, and yes, there it is. A little black beetle waving hello. The crew calls them weevils, but honestly, the term protein surprise feels more accurate. You pick yours out hesitator and eat the rest anyway. That's breakfast, every day. Sometimes they throw in salted fish, which smells like someone buried a sardine in a boot and dug it up 2 weeks later. There's a brief moment where you fantasize about fresh bread, warm butter, maybe a slice of orange. Then you burp weevil crumbs and accept that those days are gone. Sleeping quarters don't exist. You're given a length of rope to hang your hammock, assuming you can find a spot between swinging lanterns, the smell of wet rope, and that one pirate who snores like a dying walrus. You end up stringing your rope low near a pile of empty crates. It's less comfort and more convenient tripping hazard. Hygiene. Let's just say it's not a priority. The concept of a bath involves waiting for a storm and standing shirtless in the rain, hoping lightning misses. The ship has one small barrel of fresh water. It's guarded more tightly than the rum. And privacy. Forget it. The toilet is a small plank jutting out over the water near the stern called the head. The view is spectacular. The experience is not. One old-timer jokes, don't lean too far or the sharks will get dessert. You laugh nervously, then immediately grip the ropes a little tighter. The air below deck is thick, stale, damp. The scent is a mix of sweat brine mold and something you can't place but deeply regret inhaling. You quickly learn to breathe through your mouth. You start to notice the little things that give the ship its character initials carved into the beams. A broken compass nailed to the galley wall, a patch of floor that groans louder than the rest like it's remembering something tragic. One sailor insists it's haunted. Ship's got memory, he mutters, soaks up the screams. Charming. Historians have debated for years whether pirate vessels maintained any sense of organised cleanliness, or whether they simply functioned as barely afloat disease traps. Some accounts mention strict rules about swabbing the deck daily. Others describe ships where lice were traded like currency and shaving was considered suspicious behaviour. You start brushing your teeth with a bit of charcoal and rope fibres, not because it helps, but because it feels helpful. Your hands are already getting calloused. Your nails have gone a little black, and your skin smells like tar no matter how often you try to scrub it with salt water. And still somehow you start adapting. You learn how to spot a leak just by listening to the pitch of a drip. You figure out which knots hold in rain and which ones spill it on your face. You can now identify 3 kinds of rat droppings by sight alone. Congratulations. But most importantly, you figure out something else. This ship isn't meant to be comfortable, it's meant to survive. And now so are you. You wake to the sound of something cracking wood bone. It's hard to tell. Then comes the unmistakable crunch of teeth, biting into something far too loud for this hour. Breakfast time again. You're already bracing for it, and yep, there's the bucket of hardtack. Today's weevils are bigger, bolder. You flick one off and hope he finds a better life on a less cursed ship. Beside you, a grizzled sailor named Tobin is chewing with such enthusiasm you wonder if he's still got feeling in his tongue. Extra crunch means extra luck, he mumbles, offering you a piece. You politely decline. On special days, and today is one, you get meat, specifically salted beef. It arrives in a barrel that groans when opened, and honestly, so do you. The meat inside is a greyish-red glossy, with some kind of brine and shaped like it might have been part of something once functional, maybe even friendly. You take a bite. It's like gnawing on a pirate's boot. A dead pirate's boot. You chew for nearly 2 minutes before giving up and swallowing whole. You're learning to bypass your taste buds entirely. Sometimes you get cheese. It squeaks when you bite it. It also smells like regret and feels like wax. Some swear it's not cheese at all, but compressed goat hair with mould as decoration. The crew's culinary standards are, let's say, flexible. One guy tries to toast his hardtack over a lantern. It catches fire. He eats it anyway. Your body starts to rebel after a few days. Your belly aches. Your head spins. Your mouth feels like it's lined with rope fibers. You start craving strange things, cabbage, lemons, anything green. And that's when you learn about scurvy. An older crewmate lifts his shirt and shows you his gums. See that black? That's how it starts. Then your teeth fall out. Charming breakfast conversation. Scurvy, you're told, is the devil of the sea, caused by a lack of fresh fruits and vegetables. Back in the day, it took out more sailors than sword fights and cannon blasts combined. Historians estimate some crews lost up to 70% of their men during long voyages because of it. There's even debate about whether some pirates resorted to desperate, unsettling remedies, including possibly drinking urine. You're hoping that's the fringe tidbit for today and not a real option. To fight off the illness, Merrick has a stash of limes locked in his cabin. Emergency stock, he calls it. Translation, you're not getting any. Instead, you're handed a bottle labelled vinegar tonic. You drink it. It tastes like regret and shoe polish. Still, your gums haven't turned black yet, so maybe it works. You start stealing bits of seaweed when the ship nears shore. Not because you know it'll help, just because it's green and your brain cheers every time you see something that isn't grey-brown or beige. Mealtime is communal but not exactly social. Pirates eat quickly hunched over, always watching. No one turns their back on the crew. Forks are rare. Knives are plentiful. You learn to keep yours near your thigh at all times, even while chewing. One morning, the cook, a huge bald man with burns on both arms, announces a special treat. Fish stew, he declares. You're hopeful for about 3 minutes. Then the stew arrives. It's more bones than broth. A thin, oily film floats on top. The fish is possibly a fish or possibly something that once swam and regretted it. There's a small crab shell in your bowl. You don't ask questions. You just chew and pretend it's a garnish. Despite all of this, no one really complains. They mock, they joke, they hurl insults at the food, but they eat it. Because pirates aren't fueled by flavour. They're fueled by hunger and stubbornness. And rum. Oh, the rum. It flows like water on this ship, mostly because water goes bad faster. The rum is harsh, burns your throat and makes your head swim. But it numbs the hunger, dulls the aches and keeps the crew docile. Sort of. One night you find 2 men arguing over a chunk of cheese, not fighting, arguing, philosophically. It's a metaphor, one says, represents how we cling to false hope. It's mouldy goat spit, the other counters, represents your bad taste. You walk away before it gets deeper. Your stomach growls as you lie down that night, but it's not just hunger anymore, it's adaptation. You're adjusting, becoming. You'd kill for a hot meal, sure, but you'd also kill for the chance to keep sailing. Because on this ship, surviving breakfast is its own kind of victory. Your hands are blistered before breakfast's even over. Hoist the sails, they said. Easy work, they lied. You thought sails were just big sheets of fabric. Turns out they're temperamental beasts that snap, flap and tangle like they've got a mind of their own, and that mind doesn't like you. The command comes at dawn, shouted from somewhere above, all hands to the mainmast. You scramble with the others, heart thumping, trying not to trip over ropes or people. Your job is simple: grab the halyard and pull. Only the halyard is soaked with sea spray coiled around 3 other lines and roughly as forgiving as a hangman's noose. You pull. It pulls back. Wind slaps the sail like it's picking a fight. Your arms strain, your shoulder screams, and the boatswain, she of the gold teeth and permanent scowl, barks something in a language you don't recognise but definitely means faster. You finally get the thing halfway up before it snarls on itself. A crewmate climbs the rigging like a monkey with a death wish to fix it. You try not to look down or up or anywhere, really. By the time the sail's fully hoisted, your hands are raw, your back is soaked, and you have a new appreciation for gravity and why it's trying to kill you. Good haul, says one of the older sailors. You didn't fall. That's progress. You feel like a sack of bruises pretending to be a person, but hey, progress. The rigging, by the way, is everywhere. It's not just ropes dangling casually, it's the ship's nervous system. You're expected to learn it fast. There's the sheets, halyards, braces, clew lines, bunt lines. You stop keeping track after the 5th term and just start nodding. One wrong tug and the sail collapses. Or worse, you knock a crewmate off the yardarm. That actually happens. A man named Griff slips mid-climb. He dangles by one hand for a moment that stretches forever, then drops into the sea with a splash. Everyone watches. No one moves. You panic start toward the rail, but a gruff hand stops you. He'll swim or he won't, someone mutters. No use risking another. Harsh logic. But you learn quickly that the sea doesn't do mercy. If you go overboard, you've got maybe a minute less if the current's strong or the sharks are nearby. And yes, the sharks are nearby. Always. Griff surfaces, coughing and waving. A rope is thrown half-heartedly. He catches it. Later he claims he just wanted a bath. No one believes him, but they let it go. After sail duty comes watch. That means staring at the horizon for hours, hoping something happens and dreading that something will. You squint into the sun, which bounces off the waves like it's trying to blind you. Your eyes ache, your neck burns, and still you scan because if you miss a sail on the horizon or a storm brewing in the distance, or a floating barrel of rum, it's happened. You'll never hear the end of it. One crewmate tells you about the green flash, a rare optical illusion sailors claim to see at sunset. A split-second shimmer of green just as the sun dips below the sea. Some say it's a good omen. Others say it means you've been at sea too long. Historians still argue whether the green flash was just folklore or a legitimate phenomenon amplified by exhausted, rum-dulled eyes. You hope to see it someday. Preferably when your face isn't sunburned to a crisp. On calmer days, you're sent to swab the deck. Yes, it's a real thing, and it's more than just cleaning. It's about keeping the wood from drying, cracking, or catching fire from stray sparks. And it's also weirdly a kind of ritual. A way to keep busy, keep sane. And heaven forbid you do it wrong. One time you swab against the grain and the cook threw a spoon at your head. Respect the planks, he shouted like they were alive. Maybe they are. After all, this ship creaks in ways that sound suspiciously like whispering. You start noticing that the crew talks to the ship, Little things, a pat on the mast, a muttered easy now before a turn. One guy sings to the anchor chain. No one mocks him. Because here you don't mock the things that keep you afloat. By the end of the week, your muscles ache in places you didn't know existed. Your hands look like they belong to someone twice your age. And you're still trying to figure out which rope does what. But you haven't fallen. You haven't puked today. You haven't been pushed off a plank. You're still here. And that means something. The first storm doesn't ask for permission. It announces itself with a smell, wet iron, and electric promise, and then a low groan from the sea like something ancient waking up. You're below deck when it starts tying knots into a pile of tangled rope that might have once been part of a sail, or maybe just the ship's bad mood made visible. Then the bell rings. Everyone drops what they're doing. No one speaks. That silence is scarier than shouting. You follow the rush, topside eyes blinking against the sudden brightness, except it's not bright. It's grey, thick and violent, like someone smeared soot across the sky. The wind hits first sharp and cold, whipping your hair and slapping your shirt against your back like a punishment. Then comes the rain. Not drops, blades, rain that stings your skin, that soaks through every layer in seconds, that fills your ears so completely you can barely hear your own thoughts. The waves begin to rise, not roll, rise, tall black walls of water that tilt the world and make the deck feel like a drunk trying to climb stairs that aren't there. You stumble. Someone shouts. A barrel breaks loose and rolls past you, nearly taking your shins with it. You grab a rope, you don't even know what rope, but it's your new best friend now. The ship groans again, louder. You swear it's screaming. The sails are half furled, flapping like mad birds. A crewmate is climbing to tie one down. You watch as he swings from the yardarm like a rag doll, the storm laughing around him. Captain Merrick appears out of nowhere, coat billowing, shouting commands in a voice that cuts clean through the chaos. Secure the boom, lash the cannons, tie off the foresail before it whips someone's head clean off. You don't know what half of it means, but the urgency is clear. You help wrestle down a flailing line, arms, shaking boots, sliding eyes burning from the salt spray. And then the ship lurches. Not rocks lurches, a sudden tilt that sends men tumbling, barrels crashing, ropes snapping like gunshots. You hit the deck hard. The sky spins. Something sharp bites into your hip. And then, nothing. Just the roar of the storm, and the sound of your own breath, ragged and real. You force yourself up. There's no time to rest. One of the gun ports has burst open and water's pouring in. You and another sailor, Tobin, the breakfast philosopher, wedge yourselves against it, grunting soaked, straining to force it shut. Finally, with a squeal of wet wood, it locks. You collapse beside it, laugh just a little, or maybe sob, hard to tell. Tobin just pats your shoulder. Storm's teaching you something. Yeah, you wheeze. He nods, that you've got more guts than brains. Welcome to pirate life. Below deck, it's worse. Water pools in every dip and crack. Rats scurry to higher ground. The smell of bilge water and panic fills the air. You're ordered to help bail passing buckets in a line, tossing seawater back into the sea, like it's personal. You work for hours, maybe more. Time bends in storms. Everything's wet, slippery, loud. You shout, you curse, you pray, not sure who to, but it feels right. Eventually, it calms. The wind dies. The rain fades to a drizzle. The ship stills beneath your feet. And you realize you're alive. You survived your first storm. Above deck, the crew starts laughing. Just little chuckles at first, then full-bellied howls. Someone rips off their soaked shirt and dances. The cook kisses the deck. Merrick smirks and lights a pipe as if the entire night were just an overblown rehearsal. Someone hands you a cup of rum. You don't ask where it came from. You just drink. Historians still argue whether pirate crews were better prepared for storms than naval ships. Some claim their smaller, faster vessels allowed them to maneuver more easily. Others argue they were reckless, superstitious fools who relied on luck and rum. Tonight you're just grateful for the luck, and maybe the rum. Later, as you lie in your still, damp hammock, your muscles humming with exhaustion, you notice something new. The gentle rocking of the ship is no longer terrifying. It's comforting. And that might be the strangest part of all. By the time the sun rises, the deck smells like salt smoke and something scorched, possibly your dignity. But it's quiet again. Calm, even like the storm was just a bad dream everyone had at the same time. Except the bruises are real. The snapped ropes, waterlogged crates, and torn sails are real. And so is the huddle of crew around the foremast where a broken lantern swings and a heated argument is brewing. You drift closer, curious. They're arguing about the code. Now, here's the thing they never tell you in the stories: pirate ships had rules. Not many, and not always followed. But they existed. And breaking them, that's how things went sideways fast. The pirate code, as you hear one man call it, is a collection of suggestions dressed up as law. Things like don't steal from another crewmate. All treasure must be shared equally. Fights must be settled on shore, not on deck. In theory, it's about fairness. In practice, it's more like a game of who does Merrick like today. Today's argument centres on who gets the last bottle of tobacco-infused rum. A rare luxury. The cook claims it's his. Tobin says he traded for it. A third pirate says I licked it, so it's mine. Adult men, full-grown pirates, arguing over spit rights. Merrick steps in eventually, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't draw a weapon, just walks over, takes the bottle, drinks the last of it, and hands the empty flask back. Problem solved. The crew stares, then bursts out laughing. Tobin mutters, should have licked it harder. This is how the code works. It's flexible. It bends around the crew, around the moment, around the mood of the man who enforces it. Which is to say, it's less about justice and more about control. Still, there's a surprising amount of structure beneath the chaos. Everyone has a role. Shares are calculated. Decisions are voted on sometimes. Even Merrick doesn't override every choice. Not if he wants to keep the crew from mutiny. You're handed a tattered piece of parchment one night. It's your copy of the ship's articles. Not exactly bedtime reading. You squint at the smudged ink. Equal vote on major matters. No lights after sunset. No gambling below deck. Musicians rest on the Sabbath. If you lose a limb in battle, you get more gold. That last one's oddly specific. You learn that some pirates took their code very seriously. Captain Bartholomew Roberts, for example, reportedly enforced curfews, banned women from ships, and required everyone to keep their pistols clean. Historians still argue whether these codes created more democratic societies or were just convenient tools for control. Here on the Grinning Widow, it's somewhere in between. The code is real, but so is Merrick's eyebrow twitch when someone challenges him. You start to understand order only exists because everyone agrees not to test the limits, most of the time. One night, 2 crewmates do test the limits, over cards, of course. It starts with shouting, then a dagger, then blood. Everyone freezes. Merrick steps in, doesn't blink, doesn't hesitate. Sure duel, he says, next landfall. No one argues. You ask Tobin why they didn't just finish the fight here. He shrugs. Code says we don't kill each other on board. Bad luck, bad morale, bad business. The duel when it comes is anticlimactic. Two men with cutlasses circling on a sandy shore. One gets slashed on the arm, the other gets a mouthful of sand. No one dies. They limp back together. And weirdly, they're friends after that. Because sometimes pirates just need to bleed a little. Even punishment follows the code sort of. One sailor caught hoarding silver was tied to the mast with a sign around his neck. Thief. Left there for 2 days. Fed nothing but vinegar and hardtack. When he was finally untied, he just nodded and went back to work. No one mentioned it again. You wonder what it takes to break a man like that. Or maybe nothing. Maybe you just learn to bend like the code does. One night, during a particularly starry watch, you hear Merrick speaking softly to a crewmate. The code's not about rules, he says. It's about belief. You follow it so you don't fall apart. The stars above are quiet. The sea is still. And for the first time, you begin to understand what keeps this floating mess from tearing itself to pieces. It isn't fear. It's faith. Faith in the ship, in the sea, in the code flawed and fragile as it is. You finally get your weapon. It's not glamorous, it's not polished, and it definitely smells like it's been used to chop more than just wood. But it's yours. Tobin hands it to you with a grin, a short curved cutlass with nicks along the blade, and a handle wrapped in what feels like old sailcloth. There's a dried smudge near the guard. You don't ask. Treat her well, he says, patting the hilt like it's alive. She'll bite for you if you don't let her rust. You try a swing. It's heavier than you expected. Your wrist complains. Tobin nods approvingly anyway. Not bad, you'll miss less when you're angry. Later, you're issued a pistol, a flintlock, that looks about as reliable as a drunken parrot on roller skates. Still, you feel something shift when you tuck it into your sash. Heavier now. Dangerous. Like the sea finally acknowledges you as a participant, not just cargo. There's a lesson that comes with the gear. Keep your powder dry. The bosun warns, handing you a horn of black powder, unless you fancy pointing a click at someone during a boarding. She mimes a dry fire, it's chilling. Weapons on a pirate ship are everywhere, hanging from belts tucked into boots hidden in hammocks. You start noticing the variety axes, daggers, boarding pikes, even a small crossbow someone swears is cursed. No one touches it except its owner, a silent man with no eyebrows. Historians often describe pirates as heavily armed, sometimes excessively so. Paintings from the era show men with 3 pistols strapped across their chest and a sword at each hip. But scholars still debate whether this was common practice or romantic exaggeration. One thing's clear: pirates believed in redundancy, because if your first weapon failed, your second better not. Training minimal, survival is the teacher. Your first lesson in combat is less about blade technique and more about balance. You duel Tobin on the main deck using blunted blades. The goal: stay upright. You don't. The ship rocks. You swing. He steps aside and you sprawl like laundry in the wind. Your shoulder smacks the deck, your pride crumples, and someone claps slowly from the rigging. You fight like a landlubber, a voice calls. Tobin helps you up. That's because you are one. But you'll get there. You try again and again and again. By dusk, your shirt is torn, your knuckles scraped, and your arms feel like wet ropes. But you manage to block one of Tobin's swings. He nods. Progress. Weapons maintenance becomes part of your daily ritual. You oil the blade, check the flint wrap, the powder horn in cloth to keep it dry. A careless pirate is a dead pirate, and the crew has long memories. One guy once forgot to clean his pistol. It backfired. He still can't grow a beard on the left side of his face. Some weapons have names, others have notches carved for every kill or every near miss. You're not sure which is worse. There's also a kind of superstition tied to your tools. One sailor insists his dagger is made from the rib of a saint. Another swears his pistol only fires if he kisses the barrel first. You stop asking questions, you just nod and move on. One evening, Merrick gathers the crew for a story. He holds up a chipped cutlass and says, "This blade saved my life twice, took 3 others, once used it to cut through a burning sail to escape a Spanish brig." You stare at the sword. It looks ordinary. Most things that save you, he adds, don't look like much. That sticks with you. Weapons aren't just tools here, they're companions, extensions of will, symbols of status, warnings, comfort, sometimes even a kind of therapy. You catch one crewmate sharpening his blade while whispering to it like an old friend. You name yours, silently of course, whispered into the wind so no one else hears. Not because you're sentimental, but because you're starting to believe too. The first time you spot another ship, it's barely a speck on the horizon, just a distant shape slicing the sea-white sails bright under the burning sky. It doesn't seem real at first, more like a mirage. But your crewmates notice it immediately, and the mood shifts like a snapped rope. Ship ahead, bearing east. A spyglass is passed from hand to hand until it lands with Merrick. He raises it, one eyebrow arching as he peers into the shimmering distance. "Merchantman," he mutters, "single-masted, no escort." The crew murmurs in approval. You feel the energy coil around you like a tightening line. It's not excitement exactly, it's hunger. Merrick lowers the glass and scans the deck. His eyes land on you. You ever been in a chase, lad? You shake your head. He grins. Well, let's hope this one's not fast. Turns out merchant ships don't just float around waiting to be robbed. They run. And despite the stories, pirate ships weren't always the swiftest on the sea. Some were bulky from too much loot weighed down by patched sails and patched egos. But the Grinning Widow, she's built for this. The crew springs into motion. Sails are trimmed, ropes tugged, and the hull groans like it's stretching. You're ordered aloft not to climb yet, thank heavens, but to keep watch and yell if it gets bigger. So you stand at the bow squinting like your eyes will bend the distance. An hour passes, then 2. The merchant ship grows slowly, teasingly. Tobin sidles up beside you. This is the part they don't sing about. Chasing, waiting, watching. You expected roaring cannons, clashing swords, screaming men. Instead, it's wind and silence and the constant slap of waves against the hull. And pacing. Pirates pace during a chase, back and forth like caged cats. Some chew on rope ends. Others mutter strategies under their breath. One man carves notches into the rail, counting something only he understands. Historians note that pirate chases could last days. It wasn't always high drama. Sometimes it was slow, methodical, and just plain boring, until it wasn't. You eat a lunch of salted fish while watching the target. Every so often it changes direction, trying to lose you. The crew adjusts course-trimming sails tighter. Merrick never looks away. The wind shifts. Suddenly you're gaining. Cheers ripple through the crew. Merrick allows himself a smile. She's ours. Then he orders the colours raised. You've seen the flag before a black field with a white skull and crossed cutlasses. It flaps like a threat in the breeze. The merchant ship sees it too. Their sails flare open wide. They're running now. Really running. Tobin leans close. We give him a chance to surrender, but if they fire first? He trails off. You nod. You already know how that ends. As the hours pass, the distance closes. Cannons are loaded, pistols checked, blades unsheathed and wiped clean. The mood changes from restless to razor sharp. Even the cook arms himself with a meat cleaver. Merrick calls everyone to the main deck. This is it, lads. We take their cargo, we take their pride. But we take no lives unless they beg for it. The crew roars in response. You don't roar. You just tighten your grip on your cutlass and try to remember which end goes where. Then Merrick turns to you. You ready? Not really, you admit. He grins. Good. Means you're still human. The sun dips toward the waterline. The chase is nearly over. You're so close now you can see the merchant ship's crew moving about in a panic, scrambling with sails, dropping barrels overboard to lighten the load. A distraction, maybe. A last-ditch effort. Merrick isn't fooled. Hold fast, he bellows. You brace yourself. Tomorrow might be battle. But tonight it's a waiting game. And the ocean holds its breath. The next morning the merchant ship is still ahead, but barely. It's so close now you can see the fear. Men scrambling on the other deck, frantically adjusting rigging, some waving their arms like signals like please. One of them trips and nearly falls overboard. You watch it all from the widow's rail pulse quickening with every creak of the deck beneath your boots. Merrick stares through his spyglass, his face unreadable. She's winded, he says. One good gust and we'll be right beside her. He's right. The wind shifts just enough, and the sails billow out like lungs exhaling. The widow surges forward, cutting through the water with sudden urgency. Ropes snap taut, the hull groans and the gap closes fast. Then the order man, the guns. You've never heard 3 words said with such glee and terror at once. The crew erupts into motion. Cannons are rolled into position. Powder monkeys, young boys barely old enough to reach the barrels, dash back and forth with sacks of black powder. You're given a job, handout shot, keep your head down, and for the love of Neptune, don't light anything without orders. Tobin claps you on the back. First broadside's the loudest. After that, it's all screaming and smoke. He's not wrong. The first cannon fires with a sound like the sky cracking open. The ship shudders. Your teeth rattle. Smoke explodes in your face, hot and oily, tasting of charcoal and chaos. You stumble back, ears ringing. A second shot, then a third. From the deck of the merchant ship return fire, but wild, panicked. A cannonball splashes wide. Another skips across the sea like a stone missing the hull by feet. You hear laughter. On your ship. They're enjoying this. Merrick's voice booms above it all. Hold fire, bring us alongside. No killing unless necessary. The widow leans heels over with a satisfying creak as she draws alongside the merchant ship. Grappling hooks fly through the air, clanking against railings, snagging wood. Ropes are pulled tight and the ships kiss violently, hull to hull. Boarding party, go. You hesitate. Then follow. It's like climbing into madness. Swords clash, pistols fire, shouting, cursing boots thudding on wet planks. You leap across with your cutlass, drawn, immediately ducking as a musket ball whizzes past your head. You don't think. You move. You parry a clumsy swing from a merchant sailor. He's just as scared as you are, and you both know it. He backs off. You don't chase him. Tobin appears beside you, slamming the butt of his pistol into another man's gut. "Try not to die," he shouts cheerfully. Everywhere around you, chaos. The crew storms the deck, overpowering the defenders one by one. Some surrender, some don't. One man throws down his sword and drops to his knees. Another jumps overboard. You're breathing so hard your vision blurs. And then it's over. The fighting stops. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and silence. The merchant crew is gathered on the main deck. Some bleeding, none dead. Merrick made sure of that. "We're not murderers," he says. "We're thieves with taste." The loot is already being catalogued. Barrels of sugar crates of silk, a chest of silver coins. A barrel labelled dried oranges is opened reverently like holy treasure. Tobin pockets one immediately. You slump against the railing trying to calm your nerves. A crewmate nearby is sharpening his blade with shaking hands. "Your first boarding?" he asks. You nod. You did well. Didn't puke, didn't cry. You're one of us now. You manage a weak smile. One of us. Great. Historians still argue whether pirates were brutal killers or just desperate men with no better options. Some say the raids were bloody massacres. Others suggest they were surprisingly humane, often ending in surrender with little loss of life. The truth you're learning is that it depends on the captain on the crew on the day. Merrick keeps his word. No unnecessary deaths. The merchant crew is left with enough supplies to make port. A small favour, but a favour nonetheless. You return to the grinning widow richer shaken and surprisingly alive. That night the crew celebrates. Rum flows. A fire is lit in a brazier on deck and someone produces a fiddle. A few sailors even dance. You don't. You sit near the mast watching the stars. Your cutlass lies beside you, stained but sheathed. You think about the man you almost struck down. And you wonder if there's a next time. Will you hesitate? You hope not to find out too soon. But this is pirate life. And the sea. It's never short on ships. You don't sleep after your first boarding. Not really. You lie in your hammock, still-dressed boots half off, eyes wide and fixed on the ceiling beams swaying gently overhead. The ship creaks. A rat scuttles. Someone snores like they're choking on a harmonica. But it's the silence between sounds that gets you. The quiet after the chaos. Your ears still ring from cannon fire. Your arm still shakes from the weight of the cutlass. And your mind replays that moment, the one where your blade met another man's, and you felt something primal and awful surge up your spine. You didn't kill him, but you could have. And for one terrifying heartbeat, you think you might have wanted to. By sunrise, you're back on deck. The smoke has cleared. The sails are patched. The crew is moving slower today, sore and scraped, but smiling, humming, chewing their breakfast with a little more pride. You eat too, even if your stomach's twisted. You've earned it, they say. You've seen real action. Still, the ship feels different now. So do you. That morning is spent repairing damage. Ropes are replaced, splintered rails re-nailed. One cannon is realigned by 6 swearing pirates and a lot of bruised knees. You help where you can, sanding, tying, hauling, anything to keep your hands busy and your thoughts from drifting back to that other deck. But the ship remembers. Charred marks from musket shots, bloodstains drying in the seams of the planks, a dent in the rail where a blade struck and sparked. Nothing major, nothing fatal, but it's all there etched into the body of the widow like scars she's proud to wear. Later, Merrick calls a meeting mid-deck. The entire crew gathers, some still bruised, a few bandaged, one guy proudly sporting a black eye like it's a medal. Merrick paces boots, thudding in rhythm. Then he speaks. "Well done. We struck, we took, we left them breathing. That's how it's done." There's a cheer, a hearty one. He waits for it to die down. "We share now. Fair as agreed. Full shares to fighters, half shares to support, quarter to the powder monkeys and a double to the widow herself." A crate of silver coins is hauled out and placed before him. One by one, names are called. Shares are counted out, rough clinking coins into leather pouches. When yours comes, it's heavier than you expected. You're holding your first pirate earnings. It glints in the sun, smells faintly of sea and ash. You're told to guard it well. There's no banking at sea. Your belt, your boots, your bunk, those are your vaults. And if it goes missing, well, let's just say the code doesn't protect carelessness. As the day winds on, the adrenaline fades and you start to notice the other side of battle. The quiet. The fatigue. The look in a man's eyes when he sharpens a blade slower than he used to. Or the way the cook hums to himself louder than usual, like trying to drown something out. Historians often romanticize pirate battles, the glory, the riches, the thunder of guns, but rarely dwell on the hours that follow. The men cleaning weapons with trembling hands. The ones who disappear below deck for the rest of the day. The ones who drink until they forget. Tobin finds you near the prow, gazing out to sea. "Don't let it stick," he says quietly. "What?" "The feeling. It'll try to stay. Creep into your bones. You gotta swab it out, same as bilge water." He taps his temple. "Otherwise you go soft. Or worse, you go cold." You nod, not quite understanding, but you remember his words. That night the widow sails under a clean moon. No wind, no chase, no alarm. Just the hush of waves and the whisper of canvas. And the ship, scarred and scuffed, is whole again. So are you, mostly. You curl into your hammock, fingers wrapped around the coin pouch on your chest. Not because you don't trust the crew, but because you've learned survival isn't just about what you take. It's about what you keep and what you're willing to lose. The next time you board a ship, your hand doesn't shake. You still feel the weight of your cutlass, the pulse in your ears, the strange flutter that sits somewhere between fear and excitement, but this time you move. Without the voice in your head asking if you're sure. This time you are sure. The raid is cleaner, faster. A Spanish galleon with poor sails and a slower crew. You scale the side with the other's blade-drawn boots scraping the hull. Smoke already drifts across the deck as the cannons thud behind you, and by the time your boots land on their planks, half their men are already retreating. You engage two sailors, both swinging wildly. You duck, parry, slash, not to kill but to win. One drops his sword and sprints. The other holds, then fumbles. You kick the blade away and nod. He nods back. You both move on. And then the weirdest part happens. You laugh. Not loud, not mad, just a breathless chuckle at the absurdity of it all. That you who once nearly fell off the ship tying a knot are now a boarding pirate. Confident, focused, alive. The galleon is taken in under 15 minutes, barely a scratch to the widow. No blood spilled that didn't need spilling. When the last of the loot is hauled across the planks, a box of gold doubloons, some spices, and a suspiciously ornate lamp, Merrick calls it a clean pull. He looks at you. You're earning your salt. You nod. It feels good. Until it doesn't. Later, as the captured crew is rounded up and given a lifeboat, one of them stares straight at you. A boy maybe 17, younger than you were when you signed on. He doesn't yell, doesn't cry. He just stares, eyes locked on yours, memorizing your face. You look away first. Because even when you don't kill, you take their cargo, their ship, their power, and sometimes that's worse. Still, this is how it works. Afterward, back on the Widow, the spoils are divided again. Merrick takes his double share without counting. The rest goes out fairly. You notice someone pocketing a few extra coins. No one says a word. The longer you're aboard, the more you realise that justice here isn't blind. It just squints when it's convenient. Tobin sharpens his dagger nearby. You getting used to it yet? He asks. You shrug. You stop thinking about it, he says. Or you think too much. There's no middle. That's what gets you. He points to one of the newer crew, a quiet man named Jeb who barely speaks. Jeb used to be a priest, Tobin says almost casually. Joined after a Spanish patrol burned his chapel. Now he carries a rosary and a flintlock. Says they balance each other out. You glance over. Jeb is sitting alone polishing a musket and mumbling a prayer under his breath. You're not sure if he's asking for forgiveness or permission. Historians often debate the moral code of pirates. Were they truly anarchists or simply survivors shaped by a brutal world? Some claim pirate ships were havens for the oppressed former slaves, deserters, outcasts. Others say they were just thieves in fancier hats. Either way, there's truth in both. Because out here, morality bends like the sails in a storm. You start to carry your blade differently, not just as a weapon, but as armor, a signal, a warning. You notice how people treat you now less like a newcomer, more like a crewmate. You're not family yet, but you're close. That night, a storm brews not outside but within. Two men get into it below deck. Drunken words become shoves, shoves become fists, then knives. The fight is over in seconds. One man lives. One does not. Merrick appears moments later, doesn't ask questions, just orders the body wrapped and dropped. No ceremony, no words. Then he turns to the survivor. Violation of the code, he says, but it's done. Next time, fight on shore, or be buried offshore. And just like that, life continues. No trial, no justice, just a warning. You lie in your hammock that night, coin pouch against your ribs blade beside your leg. And you realise pirate justice isn't about right. It's about rhythm. The rhythm of the ship, the crew, the chase, the quiet. Everything moving in balance. When it breaks, something or someone goes overboard. And tonight, it wasn't you. Looting a captured ship isn't just about gold. It's about everything and everyone on board. Once the crew is subdued, once the weapons are collected, and the frightened merchant captain gives the all-clear, a different kind of frenzy begins. Not the rush of battle, but the quiet, hungry chaos of acquisition. You're handed a burlap sack and told to take what glitters, leave what moans. It sounds like a joke, it's not. You step below deck, past broken barrels and over a shattered lantern. The merchant ship's hold is cramped, dim, and surprisingly cluttered like a floating attic of someone both wealthy and paranoid. There's silverware wrapped in oilcloth, bolts of silk with patterns so vivid they almost glow in the dark. One crate contains nothing but dried figs. Another spices cinnamon cloves and a powder that makes your nose itch just looking at it. You pocket 3 cloves not because they're valuable, but because you miss flavour. Nearby, a fellow crewmate lifts a locked chest and shakes it. Coins or combs, he says, either way, it's mine now. You help drag it up the stairs. The lock gives way under a boarding axe, revealing combs. Dozens of them. Some ivory, some bone, one with a tiny mirror attached. Not worthless, not gold, but someone cared enough to protect them. That's the weird thing about looting, it's intimate. You touch things meant to be hidden. You find letters sealed in wax, trinkets wrapped in scarves, a child's carved toy tucked behind a barrel of beans. You pause, then leave it. There's a line and you're still figuring out where yours is. Up top, the quartermaster is already sorting. He marks each crate with Chalkshare Shipstore's captain's claim. You drop your findings in the appropriate pile, then step back, wiping your hands on your trousers. That's when you see them. The prisoners. Huddled together on the deck, tied loosely guarded by 3 pirates and a very bored parrot. Some look angry, others terrified. A few stare at the sky mouths, moving silently, maybe in prayer, maybe in disbelief. Among them, a woman in a blue dress, stained and torn. A boy no older than 10. An older man who keeps gripping something under his shirt, probably a crucifix. Passengers says Tobin appearing beside you. They weren't expected. You watch as Merrick approaches them. His boots thud softly, his coat trailing behind like a shadow. He looks over the group and speaks calmly. We want cargo, not corpses. No one touches them. We'll set them ashore at the next stop. A few pirates grumble, but no one argues. It's not mercy, it's strategy. Dead passengers bring heat. And Merrick doesn't want heat, he wants time. Time to sell trade, disappear. Historians still argue whether pirate captains were truly selective in their cruelty, or if men like Merrick were rare exceptions. Some captains were infamous for slaughter. Others, like Benjamin Hornigold, reportedly refused to attack ships from his homeland. Ethics, it seems, are as fluid as the tide. Still this day, no blood is spilled. Instead, trades are made. The merchant captain, now slightly less indignant, offers up a chest of jewellery in exchange for safe passage. Merrick takes it, of course, but he also tosses the man a flask of clean water and a bit of bread. Can't say I'm heartless, he mutters, mostly for the crew's benefit. Later, as the prisoners are ushered below and the widow's hold begins to swell with goods, you help secure the stolen cargo. It's hot, sweaty work. But the adrenaline has faded. Now you move with purpose, not rush, not panic. This is the other side of piracy. Not swords and sails, but stacking crates, counting coin, guarding silk like it's sacred. You think of the boy in the merchant crowd. You wonder what he'll remember of you. That night, the crew celebrates modestly. No bonfire. Just a little rum, a few dice games, and Merrick playing a mournful tune on a cracked fiddle someone swears he looted from a Spanish governor. You lie on the deck, eyes to the stars. You've stolen, boarded, and walked away with things that don't belong to you. You feel the weight of your coin pouch, and of something else. Not guilt, not pride. Something quieter. Like a question that hasn't been asked yet. Because loot doesn't glitter forever. And sooner or later, even the finest plunder loses its shine. Even the word feels strange on your tongue now. After weeks at sea, the very idea of solid ground under your feet is both a comfort and a threat. The ship sways gently at anchor, but the promise of stillness just beyond the harbour is making some of the crew twitch like dogs before a thunderclap. Merrick gives the nod, 2 nights, then back to sea. It's a generous offer. Port means many things. For some, it's coin and carousing. For others, it's supplies messages or the ghost of a life they used to live. For you, you're not sure yet. The town you dock in is no place you've heard of, one of those coastal trading hubs that doesn't bother with a name on any map. A blend of Spanish stone, English signage, and Caribbean heat. The air smells like roasted meat sweat salt and the faint perfume of flowers you've never seen but instantly love. The crew disperses fast. Some head to taverns with names like the Salty Dog and the Queen's Rumour. Others vanish down alleyways that practically advertise bad decisions. A few carry bundles hoping to trade spices and silver for powder rope, and maybe even boots that match. You're handed a few coins and a warning: don't get arrested, don't get married, and don't miss the tide. The town pulses with life. You hear 3 languages before you hit the main road. A vendor offers fried plantains. A child sells shells painted with bright red stars. A man tries to sell you a monkey. You decline, barely. Then, like gravity, you're pulled into the local tavern. Inside, it's dark, crowded, and exactly as loud as you'd expect. Tables cluttered with mugs, elbows, dice, and the occasional dagger. A woman sings near the hearth, voice rough as sandpaper, but still somehow lovely. Laughter booms, chairs scrape, someone throws a potato. You find a seat beside Tobin, who's already 3 rums deep and lecturing a stranger about the philosophical difference between plunder and acquisition. The stranger nods like they understand. You sip your drink ale, bitter and warm, and watch. This is a different kind of wild, not the chaos of the sea, but something more personal, more human. Men laugh too hard, dance too close, cry into their cups. One starts singing a song about a goat he lost in Martinique. Everyone joins in. And yet there's danger in it too. 2 sailors lock eyes too long. A bottle breaks. A blade flashes. The bouncer, who is approximately the size of a small ship, throws both of them out in one smooth motion. No one even pauses. You slip away before the next chorus begins. Outside, the night air is cooler, softer. You wander. Past women leaning in doorways offering smiles you can't afford. Past beggars and gamblers, and one man loudly preaching about God's wrath on pirates who gets a bucket of fish guts dumped on him from a window. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of the docks again. And there she is. The grinning widow. Anchored quiet lanterns glowing like low embers. She looks smaller from shore, less invincible, but still alive, like she's watching, waiting. You sit. A boy nearby is mending a net. He looks up. You one of them? You nod. He doesn't flinch, just asks, you kill people? You don't answer. He shrugs. My uncle was one, said he never did, just scared and bad enough they gave up the goods. You smile slightly. That sounds familiar. He goes back to his net. The silence is comfortable. Historians still debate how pirates interacted with port towns. Some were welcome, seen as bringers of coin and excitement. Others were hunted, hanged, chased into exile. The truth depends on the port, depends on the coin. The next morning, Merrick's voice slices through the dawn back aboard all hands. You're already walking up the gangplank. Some crew members are missing. One ran off with a barmaid. Another was arrested. One just gone. No one waits for them. You set sail as the sun rises, burning gold on the horizon. The town shrinks behind you, folded back into memory. Back on the sea, the rhythm returns. Salt, wind, Rope. Orders barked, sails trimmed. The widow groans, then stretches, then breathes deep and carries you forward. You're home again. And whatever port gave the ocean demands payment in return. You once dreamed of treasure chests. Gold coins spilling like waterfalls. Emeralds the size of fists. Jewels with names. That was the fantasy anyway. Then came pirate life. And today, you learn the real truth about treasure. The day begins like any other dull sky wind-sharp deck slick with last night's rain. Merrick calls a meeting. That alone is rare. What's stranger is the way he carries a small, rolled-up map in one hand. It's cracked, faded, edges curled like it's been chewed by time. "We've got a lead," he says, unrolling it on the barrel beside him. The crew gathers, squinting at the mess of ink and vague shapes. "Was passed to me from a man who swore he dug up Spanish silver somewhere off Tortuga." Merrick continues, "Said he marked it here." He taps a red X with one grimy finger. A ripple moves through the crew. "Treasure map!" You've heard stories about them, of course. Tales of buried chests beneath coconut trees, X's that really did mark the spot. But they always felt like stories, like bedtime lies. Sailors told each other to soothe the sting of hunger. Still, no one questions Merrick. The widow changes course. You sail for days. The mood on board shifts subtly, more whispers, more muttering over coins and future plans. Even the lazy crew members start pulling their weight. You catch one man sharpening his blade while humming "God Save the Queen." Another one is practicing smiles for his imagined retirement. And then land. A crescent-shaped island, not much more than a pile of rocks and palms. No harbour, no settlement. Just sandbirds and whatever secrets the earth might keep. You row ashore with 6 others, Merrick leading. The digging begins where the map says. First hour sand. Second hour roots. Third hour rock. No treasure. Just sweat cursing and sand in unfortunate places. Merrick paces, glaring at the map like it personally betrayed him. Tobin wipes his brow. Probably a riddle map. Always is. You ask what that means. A fake. A decoy. A joke passed from one poor fool to the next. You want to believe he's wrong. Then clink. A sound different from spade hitting stone. You all freeze. Another dig, then another. The metal gleam of a box edge wedged deep in the sand. It's real. Or it looks real. You help heave it out. The lock is rusted, the wood soft and crumbling. Merrick pries it open with his dagger. Inside, coins. Real glinting coins. And also junk. Buttons. A child's shoe buckle, a cracked compass, a broken pistol. Decoy stash, Merrick growls. Someone laughs. Another curses. But Merrick, he pockets one coin and smiles. It's not always about what you find, it's about what you claim. The crew hauls the box back anyway. Later that night, back aboard the Widow, you learn the final truth. Most treasure maps are lies. Not all, but most. Sometimes ships bury loot to keep it safe, then they die, or they lie, or they forget. Sometimes maps are made to buy trust, or sell to fools, or trade for a place to sleep. Historians still argue whether the most famous pirates, Blackbeard Kid Flint, ever buried treasure at all. Some say yes in haste or fear. Others say no pirate ever would. Treasure buried is treasure lost. And yet the myth survives. Because it's beautiful. The idea that riches await hidden just beneath the surface waiting for the right map or the right fool. Tobin finds you on deck that night. Disappointed. You shake your head, maybe a little. He grins. Good, that means you're still sane. You ask him if he's ever found real treasure. He pulls something from his pocket, a locket cracked and faded. Found this in a Spanish galley, he says. Wasn't worth a coin, still kept it. Why? He opens it. Inside is a sketch of a woman, smiling, faint, gone. Because treasure isn't always shiny. You stay silent. Because in that moment you believe him. There's a rule on the Widow: what happens in port stays forgotten at sea. But sometimes port follows you back. It starts with a missing boot. Not yours, thankfully, but Merrick's. You'd think a man like him wouldn't notice such a thing, but he does, and he's not amused. Was next to my cot, he says coldly, holding the surviving boot like it insulted his family. Now it's gone. And unless it grew legs, someone's going to explain themselves. The crew is silent. This is how it always begins. A stolen item, a muttered accusation, a little tension that turns into a lot. Later that night, the whispering starts. Wasn't just the boot, Tobin says to you quietly while coiling rope. Captain's spare charts went missing too. And a gold ring. Now everyone's watching everyone else. Suspicion hangs thicker than the sea air. You feel it in the way the crew moves. Stiffer, slower backs turned more than usual. No one shares their rum. No one sings. Someone cut the ropes on one of the lifeboats. No one knows or admits who. Or worse, maybe someone does and they're keeping it close. You don't sleep well that night. Then 2 days later, a shout from the crow's nest. Sails on the horizon. But not merchant sails. Naval sails. And suddenly everything snaps. Man the guns. Ready the longboats. The Widow swings hard. You brace against the mainmast as the ship creaks like a breaking spine. The crew bursts into action, but it's frantic, sloppy. A rope is dropped. Powder spills. Someone fumbles a musket and nearly shoots their own foot. They're scared. Because the Navy doesn't play by pirate rules. The cannons don't fire this time. The Widow is faster barely and slips into a fog bank just as dusk settles in. The sails groan, the wheel spins, and Merrick swears at the sky like it owes him money. That night the wind dies. The crew gathers. Someone finally says it. We were sold out. A murmur runs through the deck like a shiver. You feel it too. You think of the missing charts, the stolen boot, the way that one sailor Sykes with the scar under his eye started humming again only after the Navy ship was spotted. Merrick says nothing. He just sharpens his knife. Historians still debate how common informants were. Aboard pirate ships, most crews operated on loyalty and shared risk. But money talks, and the Navy paid well for names and coordinates. Sometimes it wasn't even for the gold, just the chance to leave the chaos behind. The next morning, Sykes is gone. So is a lifeboat. And 2 sacks of powder. Merrick finds the empty ropes dangling and doesn't say a word. He just nods, then mutters one less mistake to carry. You wonder if he means Sykes, or himself. Later the crew's mood shifts again, subdued, quieter, slightly ashamed. Because betrayal doesn't just stain the one who commits it. It splashes. It lingers. And now the Widow sails lighter, not just in weight, but in trust. Tobin sits beside you at sunset cleaning his pistol, Happens now and then, he says. Someone gets cold feet or warm pockets. He shrugs. It's not the betrayal that stings, he says. It's that we let him eat with us, sleep beside us, share the rum. You nod. Because he's right. Treasure can be replaced, even charts. But trust. That's a hole in the hull no pitch can seal. You're on shore again. Not a port this time, an island. Quiet, overgrown. The kind of place no one names because it never wanted to be found in the first place. The widow anchors just beyond the reef sails, furled like folded wings. Merrick says the island's good for fresh water firewood and letting everyone cool their heads. Translation things are getting tense and he knows it. You land in a longboat with a half-dozen others, feet sinking into warm sand the moment you step ashore. Birds call above. Insects hum. The jungle just beyond the beach pulses with heat and possibility. The crew scatters into groups, some gathering fruit, some hunting pigs, some just lying in the sun like cats. You're sent inland following a barely-there trail with Tobin and Jeb. Watch for snakes, Jeb mutters. They don't ask questions. You believe him. The jungle is thick, airless. Every step is a fight with vines, roots, or biting bugs that consider your ankles a buffet. But it's beautiful, two strange flowers bright as flames, trees with bark that peels like old skin, a breeze that feels like breath on the back of your neck. You find a stream, cold, clear. You drink like a beast and thank every saint you never believed in. You fill barrels, bottles, even a cooking pot. Then Tobin stops. He points at something partially buried in the mud, a human jawbone, teeth still clenched, cracked and brown. No one says anything. You move on. Back at the beach, someone's built a fire. There's fresh meat roasting wild boar, someone says. It smells better than anything you've eaten in weeks. You sit in the sand, knees up, cutlass by your side. You watch the sky darken, stars prickling through the blue like lanterns being lit one by one. And then the stories begin. Pirates tell stories the way monks recite prayers, slow-measured, reverent, not always true but never meaningless. Tobin shares one about a haunted coin that killed every man who spent it. Jeb talks about a French pirate queen who cursed any man who sailed without washing his hands. You're not sure if he's serious. Then Merrick speaks. Once buried a chest on an island like this, he says, with a man I trusted. He doesn't say what happened to the man. Just, it's still there, probably, but I don't want it anymore. You look around. Firelight dances on faces all sun-worn and scarred. Laughter mixes with the hiss of meat, the rustle of palms, the hush of waves beyond. For a moment it feels almost peaceful. You imagine staying, building huts, catching fish, sleeping under stars. But the moment passes. Because pirates don't settle, not by choice. Historians argue why. Some say it was the fear of capture, others the thrill of constant motion. A few believe pirates simply couldn't trust peace. It was too quiet, too still, too much like waiting to die. Later that night, as the fire burns low and the jungle returns to song, you lie in the sand with your arms folded behind your head. The stars above are impossibly bright. You think about the widow, how she rocks, even when anchored. You think about the crew, how they laugh harder when they're afraid. And you think about the jungle, how it hides things too easily. People. You fall asleep to the sound of waves hushing the shore, the jungle breathing behind you, and the wind whispering stories that no one will ever write down. Because some stories aren't meant to be remembered, just lived. He calls himself a surgeon. No one believes it. Not really. But out here, titles are flexible, and he's the only one with a bone saw, a few needles, and a bottle of something that smells like fire and makes you forget your own name. So he's Dr. Reeve, and no one corrects him. You meet him properly after a splinter goes deep beneath your thumbnail. Just a bit of rigging mishap, but it swells quick and throbs like it's hosting a drum circle. Sit, Reeve says, pointing to a barrel near the galley. His clinic is a section of the lower deck, curtained off by old sails and surrounded by crates marked rum that definitely don't contain rum. You sit. He examines the thumb, then pulls out what looks like a rusted fork and a bottle of clear liquid. Drink this. What is it, you ask? Mercy. You drink. He digs. You swear. When it's over, your hand is bandaged, your vision is foggy, and Reeve is humming an old sea hymn about a woman who married a squid. Not your weirdest day. Reeve's been with the widow longer than anyone, even Merrick. Rumour is he used to be a real doctor, a ship's surgeon with the Royal Navy. Until he got caught stitching up a pirate captain and lost his licence, his rank and half his sanity. Or maybe he was always a pirate pretending to be a doctor. Historians still debate the qualifications of 17th century ship surgeons. Some were trained, many were barbers, apothecaries, or just the only man brave enough to carry a knife and a bottle. Reeve is probably all three. His tools are terrifying saws, hooks, clamps, and a metal spoon he once used to remove an eyeball. He keeps it polished, like a trophy. You see his handiwork often. A sailor loses 2 toes to frostbite. Reeve removes them with 4 curses, 1 prayer, and a splash of rum. Another takes a pistol ball to the shoulder. Reeve digs it out with a knife held in his teeth. No one screams in his care, they pass out first. Reeve believes in practical medicine. Salt water to clean wounds, spiderwebs to clot bleeding, whiskey to dull pain. Leeches only if you're feeling lucky. One day he asks you to help. You hesitate. Don't faint, he says, handing you a bone needle. We're just sewing a man's back together, like mending a sail, just wetter. You hold the thread. Try not to look at the wound too long. Focus on the rhythm, the sound of needle through flesh. You feel sweat drip down your neck, but you keep going. When it's done, Reeve grins. Natural talent. If piracy fails, you've got stitching hands. You thank him, kind of. He has no bedside manner, but somehow no one minds. Because Reeve doesn't just mend the body. He keeps people alive. And on a pirate ship that's more valuable than gold. He keeps jars of strange herbs, dried roots, a tiny bottle of something he claims is mermaid tears that stops bleeding in seconds. One night he gives a crewmate a mixture of crushed lime peel garlic and something that smells like regret, and 2 days later the man's fever breaks. Could have been the garlic, Reeve admits, or maybe the devil just got bored. He shrugs. Goes back to boiling bandages in seawater. That night you ask him what keeps him going. He doesn't answer at first. Then I've seen too many people die with no one to hold the knife the right way. You nod. Because now you understand. Out here, medicine isn't clean, it's not precise, it's not gentle. It's survival 1 stitch at a time. You don't see it coming. No one does. It starts with whispers, a muttered curse here, a sidelong glance there, Sykes may have vanished back in Section 17, but his ghost didn't. Not really. His betrayal, his theft, the brush with the Navy. It left a wound. Not a bleeding one, but a slow, rotting kind. And tonight, under a silvered moon, the rot boils over. You're on late watch, half dozing near the helm when you hear it, a voice low and sharp followed by a shuffle of feet and the distinct sound of steel sliding free. Your spine straightens before your brain does. Then a shout, 2 arms. You rush to the main deck. There by the forecastle, 2 pirates face each other, blades drawn, breathing hard. One is Flint, quick-tempered, red-eyed from too much rum. The other is Harrow, quiet, twitchy, always watching but never speaking. Around them a circle forming. No one intervenes, not yet. Merrick steps through the crowd, slow and cold as ever. Explain. Flint spits. He went through my chest, took coin. Harrow shakes his head, liar. Fought me when I caught him. I didn't touch a thing. It doesn't matter now, not really. There's a code. It says duels must be settled on land, but there is no land right now, and the widow is too small to contain this kind of fire. Settle it, Merrick says, voice like iron wrapped in velvet. Now. Swords rise. You watch. And you realise this isn't about a stolen coin, it never was. It's about control, rank, fear. The fight is fast, messy. Both men lunge/stumble. Flint gets a cut across the cheek. Harrow loses his grip for a moment long enough. The blade finds his ribs. Silence. Harrow sinks, bleeding, gasping. Merrick doesn't flinch. See to him, he says to Reeve, who's already moving blood-slick hands, steady and precise. You don't know if Harrow survives, you don't ask. That night the widow is quiet. But it's not peace. It's tension, pulled tight like an overtied rope. You feel it in the way people eat, how they sharpen blades without looking up, how every laugh is too loud and every silence lasts a beat too long. Tobin leans over the rail with you flicking a coin between his fingers. Mutiny doesn't start with a plan, he says. Starts with doubt, with fear, with someone deciding they're owed more than what they've got. You ask if Merrick's ever faced it before. Tobin nods. Once. Years ago. It ended with 3 men in the sea and the rest too scared to fish them out. You don't ask who those men were. The next day, Merrick gathers the crew. We sail on, he says simply. Anyone who can't live with that can swim. No one moves. But that doesn't mean no one wants to. Historians often debate the frequency of mutiny among pirate crews. Some claim pirate life was democratic votes, shared spoils, fair say. Others argue it was only fair if you stayed useful. The moment you rocked the boat rocked back. And you? You feel the shifting current in the eyes of your crewmates. The way some avoid Merrick's stare. The way others whisper more than they speak. That night, a knife disappears from the galley. A rope is cut near the forward rigging. Accidents, maybe. But maybe not. You sleep with your cutlass under your hammock. And dream of voices shouting in the dark. Because on a pirate ship, the real storms don't come from the sea. They come from within. The storm finds you at dawn. But it's not the kind with thunder and waves. It's worse. It wears sails, and a flag you don't recognise, blue with gold stripes and a crest shaped like a dagger. A navy ship, all right, and not Spanish or French this time. English. You spot it just as the sun lifts from the horizon. The wind is soft, but enough to carry the distant shape sleek fast and cutting straight for you like it knows. And it probably does. Battle Stream class, Tobin mutters beside you, squinting through the spyglass. 12 guns to a side-full crew fresh powder. And they look bored. Which means they'll chase. Panic doesn't hit the Widow the way it might hit other ships. There's no screaming, no chaos. Just movement. Deliberate, quick. Merrick appears on deck, one hand already on the wheel. We don't outgun them, he says, but we might outrun them. Trim everything. Shift the ballast. And just like that, you're racing. The crew hoists every scrap of canvas you have. The Widow leans hard into the seaward, groaning rigging snapping tight like harp strings ready to break. The breeze stiffens mercifully and you feel the sudden pull as the ship surges forward. Behind you, the Navy vessel picks up speed. You're fast, but they're faster. Hours pass. You jibe to port, they follow. You cut behind an outcrop of rocks, they still follow. It becomes a rhythm like a dance, a deadly one. One false move and you're toast. Why are they still chasing us, you ask Tobin, between pulls at the halyard? He shrugs grimly, because it's personal now. Merrick changes tactics, orders a barrel of tar dumped and lit. It leaves a smoking trail behind you, briefly masking your wake. You angle sharply south, heading into rougher water. The Navy hesitates. You buy minutes. But not many. By midday, they're still there. You ever pretend to be a fisherman? Tobin grins. Before you can answer, Merrick snaps flags down. Change her skin. And suddenly the grinning Widow begins to vanish, not in the literal sense, but in disguise. The crew lowers the Jolly Roger, tosses it overboard. Crates are rolled to cover the cannons. Spare nets are strung over the stern. A sailcloth with a painted emblem and invented merchant crest goes up. You're now the Windy Bell humble spice traders from Barbados. Or so the story will go. Historians still argue about the effectiveness of these disguises. Some say they fooled even seasoned Navy captains. Others claim it only delayed the inevitable. But on this day, you're about to find out. The Navy ship draws closer. Hails you. You hold your breath as Merrick steps forward, adjusting his coat, hiding the sword hilt under a folded flap. Spice runners, he shouts back. From Port Royal, lost a mast in the last storm. A pause. Long. Too long. Then, the Navy ship veers. Not sharply, not with certainty, but enough to suggest they're buying it. Or debating. Either way, the Widow gets a little distance. And sometimes that's all you need. By dusk, the sea swallows them behind the horizon. You don't cheer. Not yet. Because out here, nothing's truly over until you're 3 ports away and no one remembers your name. The crew relaxes only slightly. Merrick smokes his pipe and says nothing. Reeve checks the powder stores and mutters something about never trusting calm water. You sit near the bow arms, aching heart, still racing. Tobin leans beside you. You did good today. You shake your head. I just pulled rope. Exactly, and you pulled the right one. That night you dream of sails black and gold chasing you through a sky full of stars. And in the dream you don't run. You turn to fight. You wake up before you find out how that ends. You're smuggling silk now. Not gold, not jewels, silk. Delicate shimmering rolls of cloth dyed in impossible shades, crimson cobalt, a green so deep it looks black until it catches the light. It doesn't feel like piracy. It feels like fashion. People will kill for this, says Tobin as he loads a crate onto the Widow. Not for what it's worth, but for what it means. You ask what it means. He shrugs. Status, power, pretending you're richer than you are. Same as us, really. The cargo is loaded by night in a hidden cove on the southern edge of Hispaniola. The merchants who deliver it wear masks, literally, simple cloth tied behind the head, eyes barely visible. Their ship doesn't stay long, no names, no greetings, just silk and silence. Merrick hands over 3 chests of coin in return. Doesn't haggle, doesn't speak. Then they're gone. Smugglers, Merrick mutters. Not like us. They pretend they have rules. The next day, the Widow sails north past patrol lanes near reefs too narrow for Navy ships to follow. You stay off maps, you sleep in shifts, and during the daylight hours you practice lying. Because when you're smuggling, you need a story. If boarded, you're a fishing vessel. If asked, the silk is sail repair cloth or sacred tapestry. Everyone has to remember the same lie down to the wording. Reeve grumbles, I liked it better when we just stole things. But stealing is noisy, smuggling is quiet. And much harder. You pass 2 ships on the 3rd day. One waves, one doesn't. The crew tenses both times. But nothing happens. Then comes the strange bit. As you pass a small rocky outcrop, a crewmate points at something floating. A bottle. You fish it out with a net. Inside a tiny scroll carefully rolled and sealed with wax. You crack it open. It reads, Beware the red-eyed merchant. He buys with coin and repays with cannon. Tobin laughs. That's not a message, that's a curse. You keep it anyway. Historians rarely talk about pirate smuggling. They prefer the flashier bits, cannon fire, treasure hunts, mutiny. But piracy wasn't always fire and steel. Sometimes it was trade. Illegal, quiet, profitable. Silk, spices, tobacco, gunpowder. All moved silently between nations that hated each other on paper and paid each other under the table. And then there's magic. Not real magic, but belief. One night, a sailor named Varno pulls out a tiny charm from his coat, a dried toadfoot tied with string. For protection, he says. You raise an eyebrow. Against curses, he adds. And women, but mostly curses. You don't believe in magic. But you keep the bottle scroll. Just in case. 3 nights in the air changes. Not just the weather, the mood. The sea flattens, the wind dies, the stars vanish behind a curtain of grey. Dead air, someone whispers. Then someone else starts singing. Softly, strange words, half lullaby, half warning. You ask Tobin what it is. Old sailor chant, keeps bad spirits away, or invites them, hard to tell. You wake the next morning to find half the silk cargo wet. Impossible, you think. The hold is sealed, no leaks. But the cloth is damp, ruined. And no one knows how. Merrick is silent for a long time. Then he sighs and says, There's always a price. You don't speak of it again. The next port pays double anyway. Even wet silk has value if the buyer is desperate or superstitious. And out here, everyone is both. It appears at twilight. No sails, no sound. Just a shape drifting on the horizon, pale against the dying light like a smudge on water. Someone spots it from the crow's nest and calls down, but even before the words hit the deck, you feel it. Stillness. Like the sea is holding its breath. The crew gathers at the rail, squinting into the gloom. It's a ship, but not moving. Not anchored either. Just drifting, slowly, listlessly. Its sails hang limp, tattered and grey. No flags, no crew on deck, not even a gull. You've heard of ghost ships before. You just didn't think you'd see one. Merrick appears beside you, spyglass raised. He studies the vessel in silence for a long moment, then hands the glass to you without speaking. Through it, the ship sharpens. It's old. Too old. The wood is blackened, sun-bleached. The mast is cracked in 2 places. The figurehead is gone, torn clean off. The nameplate on the stern has been scraped away like someone wanted to erase its past. And then you see it. A single rope ladder dangling over the side. An invitation. We board at first light, Merrick says. A few crew members groan. Ghosts don't care about the time someone mutters. But no one argues. You drift closer, drop anchor a safe distance off. The widow rocks gently, almost cautiously. That night no one sings, no one plays dice. Even Tobin stays quiet. You sleep with your blade closer than usual. Dream of whispering wood and shadowy sails. At dawn you go. A small party, Merrick, Reeve, Tobin, Jeb and you rows to the derelict. The water around it is strangely warm. Too still. You climb aboard. The deck is wrong. It's dry but soft, like everything's been soaked and re-dried over and over. The air smells of mildew salt and something sweet, rotten sweet. You find no bodies, no blood, just signs of sudden departure, a spoon still resting in a bowl, a boot with a sock still half inside, cards scattered across a barrel top mid-game. Abandonment, fast, panicked. You move cautiously, every step creaks louder than it should. Below deck it's worse. The hold is empty, stripped, not looted, not robbed. Emptied, like someone took everything valuable and left the shell behind. You find one thing, though. A journal. Pages warped writing smudged. You flip to the last legible entry. The singing came again last night. No one admits it, but we all heard. Even the rats are gone. You stop reading. Reeve whistles softly. They say there's a ship like this for every man who's crossed the sea too many times. He pockets a compass from the wall. Sometimes they come back empty. Sometimes they come back wrong. Historians love stories like these. They write them off as folklore tales born from isolation madness, too much rum, and maybe they are. But as you stand on that creaking deck, you don't feel drunk, you feel watched. And not just by Merrick. You return to the widow with a few items, the compass, the journal, a silver coin found wedged between 2 planks. Nothing else. The ship is left to drift again. You watch it vanish behind you, dissolving into fog that wasn't there a moment ago. No one speaks of it. Not directly. But that night you notice more charms around necks, more prayers muttered before sleep. And Reeve nails a scrap of salted cloth to the mast. A ward, he says. Just in case. Because even if ghosts aren't real, some ships remember. And some things should be left to drift. You weren't supposed to find it. But then again, things worth finding rarely announce themselves. It's midday. The heat is thick and sluggish, turning the deck into a griddle. You're below moving crates, reorganizing the hold after the last trade, and you hear it a soft thunk. Not the sound of wood on wood, but something hollow, different. You move the crate again, and there it is, a seam in the floor you've never noticed before. Too clean, too precise, hidden beneath a barrel of nails and 3 sacks of mouldy flour. A hatch? You glance around. No one's watching. You lift it. Beneath darkness, a square of shadow cut into the ship's bones. A ladder descends, not steep vertical, like this space wasn't made for convenience. You pause. Then descend. At the bottom, a small compartment, no more than 10 feet by 10, walls lined with tarred wood, lantern hooks but no lanterns, a single locked chest in the centre. And silence. Even the ship's usual creaks don't reach this deep. You crouch by the chest, no keyhole, just a series of ridged notches like it opens with pressure, or a trick. You try a few things. Eventually a notch clicks. The lid lifts. Inside ledgers, letters, sealed packets of oilskin, gold number paper, ink, wax. Information. It hits you this isn't treasure. It's leverage. Letters from governors. Maps marked with naval patrol schedules. Bribery lists. Full names of merchants who traded with pirates under false flags. Blackmail. Secrets. Merrick's real power? You hear a footstep above. You close the lid, seal the hatch. Climb up like nothing happened. All afternoon, the ship feels different. You look at Merrick and now you see the quiet control. He doesn't need loud orders, doesn't need fear. He has something stronger. Knowledge. That night, Tobin catches your look and raises an eyebrow. You found it, didn't you? You don't answer. He smiles. We all do eventually. Every captain has a secret hold. It's not for gold, it's for insurance. You ask why no one talks about it. Because knowing what's in there, he says, is more dangerous than not. Historians sometimes write about the mystery behind certain captains' long careers, how they avoided ambushes, knew when to run, when to attack. Some call it luck. But luck doesn't come in parchment. You lie awake that night wondering what's in those letters, which names, what promises were bought and sold to keep the widow free. You wonder who Merrick once was. You wonder who you're becoming. Because piracy isn't just about blades and storms. Sometimes it's about knowing something no one else should know. And carrying that weight quietly. Like a hidden hatch under your feet. The sea is glass today. Not calm, unnatural, still like it's waiting, watching. You try not to notice, but the others do. By mid-morning, someone drops a mug. It shatters. Everyone jumps. Even Merrick is quieter than usual. You're below deck when you hear the cry, "Man overboard." You scramble topside. A crowd gathers at the starboard rail, shouting, pointing. You rush forward and sure enough, there he is. Wren. One of the younger crewmates, barely 16, floating, flailing. The sea around him is too quiet, too flat. Ropes thrown, he misses. You see his head dip once, twice. He screams. Then silence. No splash, no sign. He's just gone. You freeze. Everyone does. Then someone whispers sharks. But you know better. There weren't any ripples. No red bloom. No fine. Just nothing. Tobin mutters, "Sometimes the sea takes what it's owed." You nod. Because what else can you do? Merrick speaks voice flat, No delays, keep sailing. And just like that, Wren becomes part of the ocean. Later in the galley, a superstition bubbles to the surface. One sailor claims the ship is cursed. Another insists it was Wren he brought bad luck from the start. Had dead eyes, someone says. Never blinked right. They argue over whether a coin was placed under his tongue. A ritual. A fee for safe passage to the afterlife. It wasn't. You know because you helped tie his boots that morning. Some try to forget. Others remember louder drink, harder shout, more laugh too forcefully. Tobin lights a candle that night, places it near the helm. Not for Wren, he says. For us. So the sea remembers who it hasn't taken yet. You want to ask if it works. But you don't. Historians gloss over these things. They talk about shipwrecks, battles, disease, but they don't mention the days when the sea just takes. Without sound. Without reason. No storm. No cause. Just absence. Like the ocean blinking. And forgetting to reopen its eyes. That night, Merrick sits alone with his chart book. Not plotting. Just staring. Reeve stitches a torn sail like it's a wound. No one speaks. Even the rats stay hidden. You lie in your hammock fully dressed. Your blade tucked beside you. You dream of dark water, of Wren's hand reaching up not out of fear, but to pull you down with him. You wake cold. Breath caught. Listening. The sea is moving again. But now it sounds hungry. You've stopped asking questions. It's not fear. It's efficiency. Questions take energy. And when you live where every sunrise might bring cannon fire mutiny or mysterious disappearances, you learn to save your breath for things that truly matter, like spotting reef teeth before the hull kisses them. And today you need all your breath. You're on patrol when the lookout calls shadows to port. You see them, two black shapes just beneath the surface, gliding, wide arcs close to the hull, too slow for fish, too fluid for dolphins. Sharks. The word passes silently across the deck. No one shouts, no one panics. Because sharks are a part of life at sea, always there, just usually farther away. Tobin spits overboard. They're waiting. For what you ask. He shrugs. Something to fall in. You keep your distance from the edge after that. Not everyone does. A new crewmate, Elam, is scrubbing the rail feet too close to the lip balance, too casual. You watch him tip once, recover, then again. And the third time, he's gone. No cry. Just splash. Everyone freezes. Merrick spins. Rope. Now. You grab one, hurl it. It lands close, too close. Because a fin appears. Then another. And then red. A churn, a thrash, and a sound you'll never forget. The rope stays slack. Elam doesn't come back. Merrick turns away first. Nothing more to do. Later at meal, no one touches the salted pork. That night, Reeve brings out dice. Roll for the dead, he says. It's a ritual. Old quiet. Each crew member tosses 2 dice. If you roll snake eyes 2 ones, you take a shot and say a name. A name of someone gone. You roll 5 and 2. Safe. Tobin rolls double ones. He drinks, then says Frey. You've never heard that name before. No one speaks. Historians still argue whether pirate crews were truly superstitious or just pragmatic. Did they roll dice for the dead because they believed, or because it helped them not believe? On this ship, it's both. Reeve tells a story half-whispered about a cursed sailor who fed sharks scraps of pork every day, until the day he ran out. The sharks didn't. You don't laugh. No one does. Because fear at sea is sticky. It clings. You feel it in the way you step, in how you sleep with one foot tucked in your hammock like it'll save you, in how you avoid the rail now even when the moon calls you to look. The sharks vanish after 3 days. But the memory doesn't. Because now every shadow under the water is suspect. And every crewmate who leans too far becomes a risk. You're not paranoid. You're practiced. Out here, you learn not everything below wants to kill you. Some of it just waits for you to slip. Some nights when the sea is quiet and the sky is clean, you write. Not a letter, not a confession, just words, scratched into parchment with a stub of charcoal. Lines that start with your name and end in places you don't remember steering toward. You fold the paper, slide it into a bottle, cork it tight. Then you throw it into the sea. You watch it bob for a moment before it's carried away, swallowed by moonlight and tide. No one knows you do this. You don't do it for anyone else. Just you. A kind of anchor. Because on this ship, time doesn't feel real. Days blend, names blur, even memories start to slip. You remember Elam, but not his voice. You recall the merchant boy with the wide eyes, but not what he was wearing. You remember your own face, less and less. So you write. Tobin sees you one night, says nothing, just nods and hands you a cleaner bottle. You're not the first, he says, won't be the last. You ask if anyone's ever gotten a letter back. He grins. That'd ruin the magic. Later, you overhear Merrick telling Reeve a story about a pirate who carved his name into a plank and threw it into the ocean. A year later, the same plank washed ashore nailed to a church door like a warning. Coincidence, Reeve asks. Or proof, Merrick says, that the sea listens. The Widow continues its journey, sails stretched like tired lungs, the creak of wood beneath your feet now something like a lullaby. You spend your days patching ropes, dodging Reeve's unpredictable experiments, and watching the horizon like it might blink again. You write more letters. Sometimes to your mother. Sometimes to no one. One starts, if you're reading this, I probably never came back. You toss that one faster than the rest. Historians say pirates rarely kept records. No journals, no logs, no names. Part of the life, they say. No attachments, no traces. But you wonder if that's really true. You imagine the sea's floor littered with messages, bottles, bones, bits of stories too heavy to carry and too precious to forget. And maybe, just maybe, something is reading them. That night you tie a shell to your next bottle. Just so it sinks slower. Just in case someone needs more time to find it. The wind is soft tonight, softer than usual. The kind of breeze that doesn't move sails, it just brushes them like a whisper. And in that hush with the Widow gliding steady across a mirror-flat sea, something in you begins to settle. You climb to the quarterdeck alone. The stars are out sharp and glittering. The moon is low. The sky a deep velvet blue that feels like it could wrap around you if you leaned far enough over the rail. You close your eyes and breathe. Not out of exhaustion, not out of fear. just because it's quiet and it feels safe. Down on deck, the crew is still. Tobin's sleeping boots propped up on a coil of rope. Reeve is hunched over a small fire pot boiling water for some questionable remedy. Even Merrick isn't pacing tonight, just standing by the wheel, hands loose, eyes distant. You walk slowly to the bow, your boots echoing gently against the deck. The sea stretches out before you, wide open, waiting. This life has taken pieces of you, small ones. A fingertip scar here, a sunburnt memory there, a sliver of trust, a chip of fear. But it's given things too. Not gold, not safety, but clarity. You understand now that being a pirate isn't about lawlessness. It's about motion, momentum. It's about choosing danger over stagnation, freedom over comfort, truth over politeness. Even when it hurts. Even when it costs you. And it always does. You sit at the bow and listen. To the creak of the widow's ribs. To the sigh of the ropes. To your own heart finally not racing. You think of everyone who's left this ship, by choice, by accident, by fate. You wonder who remembers them. You wonder who will remember you. Then you smile. Because maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe being remembered isn't the point. Maybe being was enough. You reach into your coat, one last bottle, one last letter. You don't even read what you wrote this time. You throw it into the sea. No prayer. No promise. Just a soft splash and silence. The stars shift overhead. The ship keeps moving. And so do you. Now the sails hang loose in the breeze. The creak of the ship has softened like an old lullaby would, whispering to water, water humming back. The sea vast and endless glows under the sleepy shimmer of moonlight, and the grinning widow floats lighter now, like she knows her journey will never really end, only shift. You're still at the bow, your back pressed to the rail, eyes half closed, mouth tilted in a piece that has nothing to prove. Your breath slows, your fingers uncurl. All around you the world exhales. Tobin snores softly down by the coils. Reeve's firepot has gone cold. Merrick, still at the wheel, hums a tune no one else knows. And in this quiet rhythm of wood and sea and sleep, everything becomes still, not from stopping, but from resting. The moon continues her slow descent, bathing the deck in soft silver. A bottle drifts in your wake, carrying your words to no one and everyone at once. Somewhere in the distance, gulls call faintly. The sky begins to pale. You draw in one more breath, long and gentle, and release it like a wave reaching shore. Tomorrow will bring new wind, new names, new weight, but tonight you're floating. And in the stillness of it all, with the widow rocking beneath you, and the sea wrapping you like a slow-moving cradle, you finally rest. Sleep well, sailor. The ocean's watching. The ship is holding. And the stars are keeping quiet just for you.